Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cinema Recall podcast. I have my good friend Heather b.walsh from the Word of Hellmouth podcast, and here's our theme song. Hello, everyone. Hello, all of you out there. Welcome to Cinema Recall podcast. I am the Vern. Thank you very much for joining us. With me is my good friend, actually longtime friend, Heather b.walsh of the MILFcast. She's also a very successful author too, and we're going to talk about her books as well. Welcome to the show, Heather.
Thank you for having me on, Vern. I've missed you so much.
So everyone knows that Heather here is one of the main inspirations of me wanting to do a podcast. There is
Does everyone actually know that?
Well, they should, because there are two podcasts that really want to make me become a podcast. Well, actually three, but two were main influences. One was the Simplistic Reviews podcast.
Yeah, they're great.
And the other one was the MILFcast, former podcast that you hosted with Kai Parker. And I listened to that show every week. And the fact that it was just two friends who got together and made this really fun podcast was just really influential of me wanting to do podcasting. So I was a fan first and then became a friend later.
Yes, and then we even podcasted together for a while.
We have.
We did As You Watch.
We did, yes. You're As You Watch there, yes. So, yeah, because of you, that's why I got started As You Watch and then later Cinema Recall. So it's a big honor to have you on the show.
Well, you honor me. Thank you, Vern. I love you. I've loved you a long time.
I love you too. And not only are you a successful podcaster, you're also a successful author as well too.
Yeah, I just finished my first trilogy this past year in 2024. I did a fantasy action adventure story, and it was a ton of fun. 3 books. You can go find those on heatherbaxendale.com and get started. It's a good time.
I will post links to those. I definitely got to pick them up myself. I'm just not the biggest fan of fantasy novels, but I want to read them because you wrote them and that's your big passion right there. So can you tell our listeners just the general, we call here, the synopsis of your stories?
Yeah. So it starts off the first book with our main female character. She has
what's the name
fun
of them?
trope. Yeah.
Tell me the name.
It's called The Prophecy.
The Prophecy. Okay.
Part 1 is Lost. Part 2 is Bounty Hunters, and Part 3 is No Fate. Our main female character's name is Amara. She falls into the dramatic trope of so many stories of waking up and having amnesia and not knowing who she is. And she finds herself in this dystopian world where there are monsters and demons and what looks like, it probably looks like an old human civilization. It could have been New York City or anything like that. Yeah. But she starts on this journey of finding herself, which is the first book. And she kind of does discover who she is. She finds old allies, and then she finds old enemies that she has to fight. And they find out that she is the big part of this prophecy that says she can either make or break the world. Like, she could be good or evil for it, and they're not sure. So her and her like Scooby gang end up looking for allies throughout this realm that is just disastrous. Think like Mad Max meets Star Wars Mos Eisley. Like that's the type of world we're dealing with here. It's dark but it's still fun too. But if you like adventure and you like your characters having to go through a lot, and I warn you ahead of time, I kill off a lot of people.
Jeez, oh gosh.
I George R.R. Martin the hell out of my characters. I'm sorry, but it's war. So, people die.
I had to ask you this. If you could pick anyone to do a book narration, an audio book narration for your novel, who would it be?
Well, that's a really good question. Oh, who has a great voice, but also, I just kind of want him to do everything. It's Idris Elba.
Oh, yeah. He would be good.
Yeah. And I do multiple point of views too. It's Amara's story, but after the first book, you get all the other character point of views too, including the villains.
Okay,
Colin Farrell's another one I would like. Colin Farrell would be a
he
good
would be
one.
good. That would be
Yeah.
good. And I'm really loving like the concept of the story and everything too. So it's something I will seek out. I like the fact too that you have like other like, multiple characters in this one, and yeah, I'm very
And then they're
very
all
excited.
morally gray too. It's me, so you don't have like the super perfect. Yeah, you don't have the super perfect main hero. She's a former assassin and she used to work for the bad guys. Like most of the people on their team used to work for the bad guys or used to work for bad dudes. They're all on their paths of redemption. So it's not like everybody's straight and narrow. She's a bit murderous.
So
And if you like Tarantino, there's like a ton of dialogue. I am a dialogue girl too.
so when you write a story, do you work on the actual like plot of the story, or do you work on the character's backstory first? Or because I imagine writing a book is like putting together like a role playing campaign, but more
Yeah. Oh
advanced.
yeah. Very, very similar. I would compare it pretty closely to like a video games conceptualization. RPG video games too, same thing as far as world building goes. And if you're doing fantasy, it's pretty big. I Different authors and different writers do different things. A lot of people they call them plotters. They start with the plot and the story and they build it from there and then they kind of create and work with their characters afterwards. I do it differently. I am inspired by my characters. I have an idea of what the story is and I know what my world is going to kind of look like. And then I put my characters in scenes and I make them fucking talk to each other and I figure out who they are through their conversations. And then I start to build the story and it comes together.
That's okay.
So I'm
That
like
is
going on
brilliant.
my own. It's so much fun though, because I'm like going on my own choose your own adventure.
Yo,
And as it really is. It's so much fun. You guys all like tease me about how much time I spend writing, and they're like, "How do you do it?" I'm like, "I don't want to sleep. I wish I could just stay up and write all day because it's a fucking joy." Yeah,
that is too cool.
I don't ever have the problem of like writer's block. My problem is I don't have enough time to flesh out all of my fun ideas. It's
You have
it's
this
it's
all these things
amazing.
in your head just like waiting to get put out.
Yeah.
Well, I will definitely post links in our show notes where our listeners can check out your books. Please read them. Please buy them. They're very cool. All right, Heather. So
Thank you.
we're going to be talking about Babygirl. You saw in the show notes. That's what we're going to be discussing. Nicole Kidman's movie. But before that, we are going to do a thing called Rage Corner. Rage Corner,
Yeah.
brought to you by the Gents or the Film Rage
Ah.
podcast. Rage Corner. This is part of the show where we can rage happily or rage eagerly about everything going on in the movie industry world. Heather, do you have anything you want to rage about?
I'm gonna rage happily because
Happily, okay.
this actually came to me this week. As we know, in real life, there is a lot of external stuff going on that I think is affecting all of us in many ways. And I
Yes.
think a lot of us feel really, really helpless. And when I am in scenarios where I'm struggling emotionally or otherwise, I usually turn to stories. Stories are where I find comfort. And either reading them, watching them, playing video games, or movies, which has always been my bread and butter. And I realized this past week that I usually go for what is my comfort food for films, which is action movies, like hardcore action with tons and tons of violence. And I mean gregarious violence. So I haven't seen the third Equalizer yet. And we decided that we were going to binge them last weekend. So we watched Equalizer, the first one, and the second one, and the third one. And I'll admit the third one was not very good, but it was still entertaining and it was still fun. And this is why this is a happy rage, because I finally realized why I love these movies so much. It's because most of them are vengeance, yes, and driven that way, and we're not supposed to do that because it's not morally good or whatever, but fuck, it feels good, right? Like, we don't get to do those things in real life. We feel helpless in real life. We don't get to have vengeance on people that have done the world wrong, done us wrong, done people that we care about wrong, and in these movies, we get to live vicariously for, a couple hours through characters that do that for us, and we get to, in a very small way, experience that. So I got to have a lot of my rage manifested through Denzel Washington, which if you're going to manifest your rage, I mean, just do it through Denzel Washington anyway.
Oh, that's so great. I feel the same way too when I watch like Uma Thurman slam that guy's head and kill Bill Volume 1. I
Yes!
just have so
Oh
much
my gosh.
joy.
I can't tell you how many times I've watched Inglorious Bastards in the last 6 months.
Oh, of course. I
Yes.
have not seen any of the Equalizer movies, but I will. But I
Fun.
did watch another revenge movie earlier this week. It's called Thelma. Have you heard of it?
I'm sorry. You were paused for 1 second, so I did not hear what your question was.
Did you freeze?
I did freeze. Am I back?
I apologize. Okay, you're back. Okay, no worries. So, have you seen the movie Thelma?
No, not yet. Not yet, but I've been told that I need to. Goramit, did I freeze again? Did you freeze? You froze.
I did not. It showed that you froze, but did I freeze on your end? Did my
Yeah, you're freezing
head
on my
stop?
end. I'm looking at my internet right now and everything looks okay, so I don't know.
I don't know if it's the thing, because I just updated my package here. Everything should be up and running fine. Okay. All right. I'm not
Well,
going
if
to
it
do
pauses, we pause and we'll just redo. All right. What
Yeah.
was you said Thelma, and I said I hadn't seen it yet.
Okay, so Thelma is about this 93-year-old woman who gets scammed to give it away like over like $15,000 to this random person. And she teams up with Richard Roundtree, shafts Richard Roundtree to get her money back. And it's great because it's an action movie, but this lady's old, so she can't move around much. And my favorite scene is when she actually does find out where they're keeping her money, and she has to go. It's like this furniture place, this antique furniture place, and it's kind of in the dark, so she can't see that well, and she can't move. So she's having Richard Roundtree kind of like tell her, "Hey, look, you gotta step over a lamp, or you gotta move over a chair." And she's old, so she has to slowly crawl over stuff. But it's shot like an intense action sequence, and it's great. Malcolm McDowell is in the movie as well, and it's just this very sweet feature.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds freaking great. All right, I'm adding that to my list of to watch. I think it's already on there, but
Yeah,
I'm
very
adding it
cool
anyway.
thing.
Again.
But that is not my rage that I'm raging
What is your
about.
rage?
My rage has to do with the Oscars and how a lot of people take the Oscars just way too seriously.
I'm with you.
Way too seriously. So the nominations came out, and every single thing I see on YouTube is about people complaining about Amelia Perez being nominated for 13 Oscars. And yeah, I admit it's not that great of a movie, but I had fun with it. I kind of enjoyed it for what it was. And if it's rated as the worst movie ever, that's fine. I'm not telling people that they can't have their opinions about a movie, but at the same time, too, I just get irritated when I see all these YouTubers and everything just saying that Oscars are bullshit. I'm never gonna watch the Oscars again. They nominate this movie. They say this shit every year. Every year there's a
Exactly.
movie.
Exactly that. That's where I have a problem too. I used to have Oscar parties. I used
Yeah,
to love the Oscars so much. We used to do lasagna. We used to have people come stay up. We would all wear our pajamas. I mean, it was a big, big thing. For like 10 years of my life, I haven't watched like the last 4. Because when I said, you know what? I'm kind of done with this. This is kind of a bullshit show. I follow up and make sure I, know who won and all that stuff
yeah,
too. But if you're gonna say I'm no longer watching it because it's bullshit, then no longer watch it.
yeah. And
Stop
don't be
making false
interested.
threats.
And it's like each year, it's the same thing again. So, but I will say this though, I am excited about the Oscars because of to be more in the substance. The fact that a body
Me
horror film
too.
is up for like all these awards, and I'm like very excited that a gory
Cried when I
movie,
saw her acceptance speech from whatchamacallit. I am
the Golden Globes, hell yeah,
yeah, I got all choked up, like legitimately. I am so excited for her. Plus, holy shit, that movie is great. Absolutely. I'm so with you.
if you get a chance to see the substance in a crowd, see it with an audience, it is amazing. The more people, the better, because in fact, that is going to be my Christmas movie that I'm having the family watch on Christmas Day. We're watching The Substance.
Not Eyes
And
Wide Shut.
oh no, we should be watching. We sh-
I love your family. I know that you always have like a sweet, lovely Christmas with your family. That's why
yeah,
it makes me so
well,
uncomfortable.
that I no, no,
Eyes
Heather,
Wide
no.
Shut is a very good companion piece to Babygirl, though.
It is a good companion piece of Babygirl. I agree. So we're gonna do this right now. I gotta play just a quick break to play some ad spots, and then we'll be right back. I'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. Cinema Recall Podcast. Thank you for taking a break with us while I play some ad spots, some other great shows. The movie that we are discussing today. Hold on.
There you are. You're back.
Yeah, I am, but okay, it's there. Okay, it's still going. Why did? Okay, I don't know why I moved my laptop an inch, and then all of a sudden they're like, "New track to record now. You're gonna be at it." So okay, so I think we're still working here. We'll see how this goes. All right, welcome back, everyone. Cinema Recall Podcast. We're here with Heather b.walsh to discuss the film Babygirl, starring Nicole Kidman and directed by Harrison. I forgot her name right now.
Halina, I think it is, like Reijn or Reijn.
Halina Reijn, yes. Babygirl, yes. And we have Nicole Kidman, and we have what's this guy's name?
Harris Dickinson.
Antonio Banderas
what a name.
Is in this.
Antonio.
The story is that Nicole Kidman plays Romy, and she's married to Jacob, played by Antonio Banderas, and their marriage is not having the spice that it used to. She's not getting the satisfaction and pleasure that she wants from her husband. And so when a new intern comes in, his name is Actor. Really?
Samuel.
Well, how come
I'm doing so good remembering names today? I can't even remember my own dragon's name sometimes.
Well, no, because on Google it has Harris Dickinson, and his name is Actor. I swear. Okay.
I believe you. That's amazing. But yes.
So the story is that this new intern comes in, and her and this new intern, they start to develop a relationship with each other. And it starts off very kind of like small flirtation, and she gets to be more involved with them because she likes to be told what to do. It's very much
outside of the office.
Outside of the office, yes. It's very much a dumb, submissive sort of thing. Although I wish I had bosses that were more dominant with me, all right? I would love that. I've had bosses before, and they're really cute, and if they want to be demanding and have me stay after work and do stuff with them, love that. I would never complain about it either.
Me either. No, I think I'd like it too.
Yeah, and I was young at the time too, and they're older, and I loved it. So that's kind of the basic premise of Babygirl. But I want to get your thoughts about like when you saw I remember seeing trailers for this movie, Heather, and it just looked like a very standard thriller about a woman who's overworked and she finds this young guy, and I thought that they would have an affair, but then the guy would become more obsessive and he start to stalk the family and like become almost like a psychopath. I was expecting to have to be like a very psycho thriller, like your typical psycho thriller, and it sort of starts off that way, but their power dynamics change. Like I got vibes from watching this about Disclosure, that Demi Moore, and who's that?
Michael Douglas.
Michael Douglas, yeah, where he plays a guy that gets seduced by his boss, and then when he decides to back out, that's when she wants to ruin his life. I thought that's what he wants to do, is ruin her life. But there's elements in this where it doesn't seem to be that way. Like she's manipulating him and he's manipulating her, and they just go kind of like back and forth. So I'm talking too much, Heather. Just please tell me,
So I saw the trailer initially too, and I love Nicole Kidman. I'll watch anything with Nicole Kidman in it because she's I think she's one of the finest actors we've ever had. Just period, end discussion. But the trailer didn't grip me either. But what I saw was Halina, the writer and director. I saw her on The Daily Show, and she was being interviewed about it. And when she started talking about the movie and her point of view with her creation, that's when I became interested. Because she said she was influenced by movies like Fatal Attraction and Unfaithful. And she said, there's always like this, like you said, it's a thriller and you expect someone to be the villain and like these horrible things to happen, consequences for your actions, and not just consequences, but movie consequences. So they have to be extreme, right? But she said she didn't want to do that. She said, and a lot of times in situations like this, there isn't a good guy or a bad guy. There's just people, trying to get through life and making mistakes as they go. And she said, so I like to live in the gray, which is where I do too. So, and I think that most people do. And I find those characters, and if you're going to do a character study, which this is ultimately what it is, it's a sexual one and a relationship one, but it is a character study. I think if you're going to do that and you're going to be honest about it, which is, as a storyteller, what you're supposed to do is tell the truth, then I was immediately interested. I'm like, oh, I'm going to see it. And I texted my best girlfriend and I said, hey, you want to go see this movie with me? And she was like, game on. So I immediately was there for it. And from literally the intro until the credits, I was in love. It was brilliant.
100%. Now, I wish I would have saw this movie at AMC theaters. I did not. I saw this at it's called the St. Anthony Main Theater. So when you go see movies at AMC, Nicole Kidman always comes out and she gives that mantra about movies. All right. When that I know that when this movie played AMC, I don't think she used that, but I wish she did, because after her whole like mantra about we make movies better and everything, when the movie begins, right when the opening credits come on, even like during the opening title sequence, we are hearing the sweet orgasmic sounds of Nicole Kidman.
Yes! Tell me that was not like, I was not expecting that. And also the realism of it, because that wasn't like, I mean, that did not sound like movie moaning at all. That sounded like real life moaning.
Yeah.
And right there, I was like, game on. Thank you. You were not afraid. This woman was not afraid to make the movie that she saw in her head at all.
And I'm like, is it wrong that I'm getting really aroused watching this movie with a lot of people around me? And
I think that's intent.
Okay,
I think
good.
that's, I mean, okay. It's very sexy. It's very sexy. And there are parts that some people probably won't find sexy, but that's the whole entire point of this. Kinks are very, very unique to the person and people.
Yeah.
And we live in a oppressive Puritan society, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to talking about sex, particularly women who are sexual in nature. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's anything but natural to respond to that sound. I feel like you're actually stifling your own sexuality and your primal carnal urges. If you hear the first moans from, like you said, before you even see anything, you hear these very sexy moans from her, where she is clearly enjoying herself, but even though she's not.
Yeah. Well, she's
enjoying herself. Yeah, but she's also putting on a show for him.
That's true, because she loves her husband. Let's keep that clear.
She does.
She
does. There's no doubt. She loves her family. Yeah, that's what makes this really great, I thought.
Because she is kind of putting on a performance because she loves her husband, and she knows that he can give her pleasure that he has before, and maybe that he's over.
He's never given her an orgasm through sex. She does say that later in the movie. I mean, that's like an explosive point between the two of them. So maybe she enjoys sex. If you're a woman and you don't orgasm from sex, it's not happening. It's just not. And I'm still shocked today to find out how many women who are even my age that have never orgasmed during sex. It's absolutely, utterly insane.
See, I kind of took it as that he has maybe pleasured her through like oral and other things, not through actual sex. So it feels like she.
No, I didn't even. Yeah, I didn't even get that.
I just feel like it's been like a long time since she's had that feeling with him like that.
I don't think she had it at all.
At all.
Because she said, yeah, because it didn't mean that she didn't have affection towards him. It doesn't mean that she didn't enjoy having sex with him. But if you don't come to completion. But if you don't, then you're not getting the full experience. I mean, it would be like a time a guy had sex, if he stopped before he came, you would be really frustrated. It's nice. Yeah, it's nice to come by yourself or in other ways even, which they did not specify if anything had ever happened through oral or different kinds of, play. But she specifically said at the end when she blew up, she was like, I've never had an orgasm during sex. And this is something that, sorry about that. This is something that, which until I was probably in my 30s, I didn't realize was really common for women. A lot of women do not orgasm through sex. And a lot of women think that there's something wrong with them because of that. And so, yes,
Okay.
a lot of women internalize that. And in fairness to a lot of men make them believe that. But I'm not going to blame it all on men because it's not all men's fault. Women have a lot of trouble communicating to men what they want too, which is exactly what happens in this movie. She's trying to communicate with him even in the beginning with like the silly sheet play and stuff, that she wants to try a little bit more and she doesn't know how to bring it up, especially when you've been with someone for so long. You've been together for 20 years and then you're suddenly like, look, yo, that sex life we've been having that you're so content with, it's not doing it for me. It's not an easy thing to bring up. It's not, if we're being honest about it. And she did try to do that to some degree. And he was just like, I don't want to be the villain, which was really cute and sweet. But your wife needs you to be a villain for a little bit. So you got to get on board and at least give it a try, man.
Take control of things too. And I swear, when watching those early sequences, it did remind me of the movie Secretary with Maggie Gyllenhaal and her boyfriend,
James
Jimmy
Spader.
Davis. Not James Spader. I'm talking about Jimmy Davis, her boyfriend.
The boyfriend, yes.
She wanted him to do more kinky things with her, like spank her, and he felt like uncomfortable with the whole thing, and she just wanted him to take more control. And that's how I feel like Nicole Kidman wanted Antonio Banderas' character to do with her, just to be, take more control. All right, she wants to kind of be dominated. All right, she wants to be like, thrown on the bed, rip off the clothes type of thing there too, like just like.
And that's very typical for men or women too. If you are usually in control, you're the boss and you are running shit all day long, very often at the end of the day and when you're in the bedroom, you don't want to be the boss there anymore. It's like, okay, I have had to boss everybody around all fucking day long. This is the time where I would like to be violated.
Yes.
But it is but again, I think that the reason there's so much communication gap with this stuff is because women until recently have really not been, empowered to talk about stuff like this by society. Men have a really hard time communicating, but it goes on both sides. Like a lot of people say it's one side more than the other. I don't think it is. I just think it's the way that we have all been separated for so long that it's really hard to bridge that gap. And it's scary too. It's scary. You don't want to be rejected. You don't want to be told that you're a crazy person for feeling the way you do or wanting to explore things. But I think it's completely natural to want to do those things. And we push those feelings aside.
Yeah. And that's one thing too, that I will always communicate with everyone with, what my kinks are. I like to be dominated. All right. That's my thing. All right.
I got that impression, Vern.
Throw me down there. I will totally be a sub right there. But I have dated other girls too where they're like, I need you to take more control here. And so you do. And, they enjoy that.
Yeah, if you like somebody or care about them, you're going to be willing to step out of your comfort zone. Also, let's be honest. Sometimes that will make you incompatible. If you guys can't meet in the middle sexually, relationships, sex is important.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody says. You can be like, no, 100%. It's just all. It 100% is. If you do not have that physical connection between you and your partner, then you have a different kind of relationship. It doesn't mean you're not a romantic relationship, but you have a different relationship. It's really, really important. Everybody focuses on, talking about emotional feelings and stuff, but, all of that physical connection is very much so part of that. So 100%. Bravo to you for being open to doing things that are not necessarily in your wheelhouse.
Yes.
And being open about what you prefer. Because if we could all do that, I think we would all enjoy ourselves. There wouldn't be women who are going through relationship after relationship not having orgasms during sex.
So a little side note here. All right. I've got invited out this summer to go to some swinger conventions.
Good for you.
So there's.
Have you done that before? Is that okay to ask? Is this something you've done before?
I have not. I'm not saying I've gone yet, but one of our good friends who's a past guest on the show, she's Nikki from Dear Nikki. She's doing some events over in Las Vegas and in Florida. In Florida, they're having the ASN convention, which is like the Adult Swingers Network. And so they're having a convention over there. She's speaking at these events, and I got invited out there. I don't know for sure. I know for one for sure in Vegas. I don't know for sure I'm invited to the one in Florida or not, and I think there's one going on in St. Louis that may go to, but I don't know for sure. But I'm kind of intrigued to go there. And she says it's just a fun, anytime. There's no
Yeah.
pressure to be with anyone really. You're just because most people who join this kink swinger community their first time out, they're just there to like meet with people. They're just there to
Window
see
shop.
whether
Yeah.
yeah, window shop. You're there to see who you're vibing with and everything like that there too. And I mentioned this to her too. Like, I mentioned to her and other people in the community, is it just married people, a couple people that go? And she's like, no, single people can go too. It's just yeah.
Yeah, because
So
sometimes the couples will want to take you in, or
yeah.
there's plenty. There are so many different circumstances. That's the whole thing. I am a firm believer in being a triathlete. I think you should. I think you you should open yourself. Be open enough to just try things. It's something we were told as fucking children, right? Like, be open to new things and ideas. Be curious, and sure, you might find stuff you don't like. That's really easy. Then don't do it again, right? But why not try it on and see if the dress fits?
See, I don't know if you were there for the first Lamb meetup in Chicago. I don't think you know if you
No,
were not there.
I wasn't. I was married to a controlling bastard at the time who
Oh,
didn't want me to go
fuck.
hang out with you guys. Yeah, fuck
Well,
his couch, man, big time. But that was I also yeah, so I
I'll
didn't
tell you a short
go,
story
and
there.
I still lament.
When I was there, I met up with this couple that were there. And I've never been to Chicago before. So her and him, his wife was like really hot. They wanted to take me out on the town and go visit all the tourist spots of Chicago. And I know that Dylan and Jason and Nick were there. They're like, "Oh, Jason's gonna be having sex with those two for sure at the end of the night," and so they thought that I was gonna be going out with them. So we had this whole plan to go out to all these bars, and so while we're at this one bar and I'm drinking and having a good time with all the Lamb members, halfway through the night, the guy comes to me and says, "Look, my wife's really drunk. We're gonna go home now, so we'll see you another time. Like, we
Yeah.
can't do anything tonight." So, but it's just that one moment where maybe something could happen there. I'm not saying it would happen. I don't know for sure, but I would be willing to go with them. And I could be murdered and put into a box, but it would be a
Well,
weird.
that's the danger in doing that stuff with strangers,
Yeah,
unfortunately. I said stranger danger.
strangers. Yes,
But well, that's why you set up fail safes, like you let everybody know you are. You put your GPS on your
yeah,
phone
exactly.
and do that kind of thing. I have single female friends, and I used to, one of my neighbors, she used to go meet online guys online, like, and Plenty of Fish and stuff all the time. And she was never careful at all. So I've always been very, very careful with my friends. Like, you need to just let me know where you are. Give me your address. I mom the shit out of them when it comes to it. By all means, go and experiment, have fun, do whatever, but also be careful about it, because
Be safe.
it
That's
can
fair.
be dangerous. Yeah, yeah, but also that is one really great thing I think about the internet. While there are many awful, terrible things, this is a really great place to meet people who feel the same way you do, who are as interested in the same things you. Or if you're curious, you have more access to that kind of thing. You'll have really, really conservative, repressed people that are probably way gayer than I am. And I'm pretty gay. But that will sit there and say that's causing corruption. But I think it's, in most cases, I think it's a healthy outlet, as long as it doesn't become something more
And just
nefarious. It's a great way
kind
to
of be
meet
safe
people.
about the whole thing. The one thing I've
Yeah.
learned, and we'll get back to Babygirl, I promise you. But one thing I've learned about, talking to other people in like the Twitter, community, teen community, is that it's all about communication with their partners and everything,
Yes.
and everything's just all
Yes, it's about, the borderline is trust.
yes,
There has to be trust there. There's a lot of trust, and I think that's what some people that don't understand it just don't
yeah.
really get. Like, it's not just about being freaky. It's about an exchange of trust and, like you said, communication, which is something that's so lacking in most relationships. So when you can be open and talk about these things, and also not fearful of being rejected or the response, it opens up an opportunity to be more of who you are.
Exactly.
And why would you turn away from that? Yeah, it's a great thing. Yeah,
And
you get it.
I really think that's what Nicole Kidman is learning throughout this movie. Her character.
Yeah, that's why it's great. Look how awkward she was, because that was the best part to me, was how awkward it was for both of them, because neither of them really knew how to start it. I'm like, that's so fucking real. Like,
Yeah.
that is so real. Like, like when he put her in the corner and she was standing in the corner with a little timeout, which, by the way, was like, it was like simultaneously
So
uncomfortable and hot, which I love.
All right, we're trying to get ahead of the story a little bit because it made it sound like Antonio Banderas is putting her in the corner. So no,
Yeah, my bad.
no, you're good. So we know that right away that Nicole Kidman and Antonio Banderas' characters they have a lot of like sexual frustration going on. It looks like that she kind of started this business of hers for like a while, and it seems to be that she's the breadwinner of this family. Antonio Banderas plays a director, and he's a very successful director. But it looks like a lot of the money is happening through her, and so all the pressure
Either that or
is
she's just like the captain of the ship. Yeah,
I
she's the
think she's the
captain of their
captain.
family ship.
Yeah,
Yeah,
takes care of the
she's the
kids and
captain.
everything. So when Harris Dickinson's character comes in, and he's not the one to be easily like bossed around because he seats her out to get a interview with her, and he's the one that actually pursues things with her a little bit more, and he gets to be really we call it here excited by her, uh, but he also relates the nature of power with her as well. And he sees her as like this powerful woman. He respects her, but he wants to know how far he can go. And I guess when he finds out that she likes being kind of told what to do, that is kind of a turn on as well. It's still a physical attraction, but also it is kind of hot to know that, especially if you're a younger guy, and knowing that you can make an older woman do these things. I mean, he orders her like a glass of milk and tells her that's the only thing she can
My God.
drink.
Okay,
Oh,
let
I'm
me
sure a
just
lot of women
tell
got
you,
wet.
that was hot. That was hot. It had nothing. Okay, for people that don't understand, I'm going to explain it to you. It has nothing to
Okay.
do with the fucking milk. It has nothing to do with the milk. It has to do with the fact that he ordered it for her and he wanted her to drink it. And this was not asking. It also wasn't telling. It was an offering, is what it was. It was, are you playing with me or aren't you? And she drank it in one gulp, which said she might have had all these reservations up in her head and otherwise, but she chugged that fucking glass of milk like it was her job. And she's like, yep, I am down. And that was, again, that was not typical communication, but it still was. It was a fucking offering. And she was game for it, which again, that's super hot. That's what we call play, people. It's play. You're playing.
I just
That's
imagine
playing
now that there's
together.
going to be a lot of like guys going to bars and offering girls glasses of milk. And
Hope not, just because, most of us, at least once if you're going for an older woman, by the time we get to a certain age, we start to become lactose intolerant and milk is not friendly with us at all. So
okay,
you don't, but the symbolism of the milk is great.
very much
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. That was that part. And that was before they had hooked up or anything at this point. It wasn't,
No,
and that's another thing. What they were doing wasn't flirting. They are not flirting. If anything, I would call it sparring between the two of them. Yeah. It's not, it's almost like two predators are circling each other. She's used to being in control of everything and she wants to let go of it, but she doesn't know how. He knows that she wants that, but also he's still her, he's below her
yeah.
professionally. So there's this dynamic between the two of them and this power struggle that makes this dance turn into more of what I would call a sparring there. And you feel that tug and pull back and forth between them for a good portion of the movie.
I never would have considered that to be like a sparring match because I just saw it as these two people who are very attractive, and I'm sure this is what attractive people go through all the time. This whole
Yeah.
like push and pull. You know how it goes here, Heather, right? You have this happen, all the time at your jobs and everything when you go out. I mean, yeah, you're a hot girl. I won't, yeah,
Thank you.
so and I know this like push and pull thing would happen with you and other people, but with Sam, is the kid's name Samuel, and
Samuel.
Roby. It just felt that I can get the power dynamic play right there, but it also felt like she was trying to hold back something that she really wanted. And but
Yeah.
he also is like this little boy too. And there's
Yeah.
a great sequence in the car where their push and pull is really there. And he's coming on to her about what she wants, and she's telling him what she wants, but it gets kind of confusing because you're not quite sure what side is playing who, and
Yeah.
it's very kind of confusing. And I'm sure that each viewer, when they watch this movie, they are going to see themselves as the other character. Because during that car sequence, you can see Nicole Kidman being the victim, and you can also see the Harris Dickinson character as a victim as well. But also
Exactly.
that
There's no bad guys, right? That's why it's great.
but in
Because they're
that
just
same sequence,
human. You're just people. They're just people trying to navigate this shit and they don't
and
know what they're doing.
in the same
Which is what
sequence,
most of us.
well, it seems to be that they're both trying to, have a command of the situation, but still kind of respect each other's like boundaries too. Like there is a nature where she wants him to be more like forceful on her, but he doesn't want to because he doesn't want to be seen as like the villain. But she kind of wants that villainy to be there a little bit.
I think it's more of a she just struggles with letting go
Is that
of
okay?
control. Yeah, I think that's what it is. As a
See,
as a strong woman and a woman who knows other women pretty well, I think that's more of what it is for her. I think she's struggling this whole time to number one, she has guilt because she's
sure,
married and she does
yeah,
love her husband. She loves her family. This is a part of her life that's missing and she's ashamed of. She's very ashamed of this. And you can see that. So you mix that shame up with the fact that she's also always in control of her life. And she comes from a background where she didn't have control growing up, which is you see these flashbacks through the beginning of the movie to the end. And she said she grew up in a cult. So you see these things where she had all of this stuff that has imprinted on her. So someone that grew up in a cult and was indoctrinated as a child, yeah, if they spend the rest of their life, you're going to want to have control over all of your surroundings so as not to fall under somebody else's thumb again, right? So for her, letting go of that control and letting him command her is definitely against all the stuff she's probably worked through in therapy up to this point. And so I think that's where she's coming from with it. And he's very young. He's very young. She's powerful. She's his boss. She could make or break his career.
yeah,
And he doesn't, and like you said, he doesn't want to be a villain. No, he doesn't want to be a bad guy. He wants to make sure that this is consenting and what
hmm
he's doing is what she wants too.
yeah.
So I think that's why we get all of that awkwardness for so long. And what else you said about anybody could put themselves in their position. I find it very interesting you said that, and you and I both keep forgetting their names. During the whole entire movie, I was like not particularly focused on their names, but I knew them as people, and I think that's why. I think it's because they were so fucking real that they were no longer just characters or whatever their names were, Romy and Samuel. So yeah, I think that was a really, really good point on your part too.
No, and another too because I have been the other guy because I did date a girl once who was married, and I kind of knew about the marriage, but yet we still kind of like fooled around and whatnot. And it turns out that she was not able to get from her husband as she was with me when we were together at some times there too. And we also had kind of like a power dynamic because I knew that I was not the main person in her life, and that caused a little frustration, and that's
Yeah.
why it didn't really last long at all right there. So I'm sure that Harris Dickinson's character, he's kind of going through a similar situation where, and that's probably why he shows up to her house too, to kind of like see, hey, who are these people? Why are you choosing this guy over me? But it's not really like he gets along with the kids and everything too. It is confrontational
No,
because he
I
wants to
think
like
yeah, I think
be
it was more curious because he doesn't want to be her boyfriend. He makes it very clear. He's
okay.
not interested in that. Sorry, that is my son's diabetes alarm, which Mike is supposed to be watching right now. But yeah, I don't necessarily think that either because he made it very clear. He made it clear that this was a sexual relationship between the two of them. Now, what does happen sometimes and often is that there becomes emotional connection between people and there becomes strife and other issues. But I didn't see that in this movie. I saw it as this is two adults who are trying to come to some level of agreement with boundaries on their sexual relationship. And I think both of them don't really know how to navigate it because he's young enough that I highly doubt he's been in this situation before, certainly not with a woman like her, and she has her family on the side, and you compartmentalize that stuff too, then you don't have to deal with it. So I think he came there more out of curiosity. I think you're on the right
Yeah.
track with that, where he went there to see what her family life was like, who her husband was, and what all of that looked like. And maybe it was self-preservation to see if she would end up getting attached to him because he doesn't want that. Or maybe it was to understand her better or something along those lines. Both of them at various points end up crossing the line with each other. Like later when she shows up to his work, she crosses that line, right?
Yeah.
So they both do this with each other where they don't really understand where those lines are, or they just cross them because they feel entitled to do so, and then the other person pushes back. But they're learning how to communicate with each other is honestly the way I see it. When you break it down really simply, that's what it comes to for me.
Yeah, 100%. And there are a lot of other great sequences, especially the sequence in the hotel room. And that's the one where he puts the bowl down and has her crawl over.
Yep.
That was
Yep.
also great too. But even before that, all right, where he says, get on your knees. And she says, no, I'm not doing that. He's like, well, wait a minute here. Are we doing the role playing here, or are we not being the role playing? And I feel
Yeah.
like that was the whole tension and conflict, is if they're doing the role playing of their sex versus them just being in real life, because he wants to be commandant to her because that is her sexual fantasy. But if that's why they have the safe word there too, like, and
Yeah.
that's an important
Yeah.
thing to have, like, because
Which
they would
which she makes the safe word her husband's name. I'm like, "Oh,
have.
no, that's so bad. Don't do that. Don't do that." It's so hard watching them both make mistakes, but I mean, that's the point. That's totally the point. But yeah, you're right. She has there he's like, "Okay, I thought this is what we were doing. Are we not doing this? Explain this to me." There's a lot of that back and forth between them though of are we doing this or aren't we doing this? What is going on? It takes a long time for them to get there.
So there was a movie that came out in like 2001, 2002 called The Piano Teacher with Isabelle Hubert, directed by Michael Haneke. And I'll tell you really briefly what it's about, because both this movie, Babygirl, and Piano Teacher share similar stories and themes. So Isabelle Hubert plays this very renowned piano teacher at this exclusive academy, but she is also kind of like sexually repressed because she lives with her mother. Not only does she live with her mother, she's in her 30s and still sleeps in the same bed as her mother.
Oh, good God.
And so she's been brought up to be this very prestigious piano teacher, and doesn't really have a lot of like emotions sexually or any emotions at all. She gets her kinks by going into adult uh, shops, stores, and going into the booths where men have jerked off in, and she likes to like watch porn and sniff the cleanesses that they jizzed in, and that's her kink. That's one of her kinks. All right, she likes going into adult film shops and just like walk around and stand there with other guys, and they feel like uncomfortable. She meets this young protege, this male student that she is attracted to, and she wants him to basically perform a rape fantasy, and he feels
Wow,
kind of
she goes right to the fucking finish line.
she's like, she writes him a letter, and it's very important that he reads this letter. And this letter says, all right, I want you to punch my mom and lock her in her closet. I want you to tie me up. I want you to punch me in the stomach, rip my clothes off. And but there's also a point in the movie too where she wants to be controlling on him, because after a recital, she knows that he has a crush on this other girl, and so she takes a glass, breaks it, puts it into her coat pocket so that she'll reach in. And this other girl's a piano prodigy too, so that she'll reach in her coat pocket and get glass in her hands and cut her hand up, and so she can't play the piano anymore. There's it. So she wants to take her out of the picture, and there's another sequence where she confronts him in the bathroom, and she starts to like jerking him off and giving him a blowjob, but she's very particular that she she stops like halfway and says, "All right, I'm not gonna touch you anymore until you like read this letter I wrote later on." So she's being manipulated to him as well, and
Yeah.
he's wants to be manipulative but is having difficulties with it. So there's like power struggle going on with the piano teacher, and it's good. I like Babygirl a little bit more, but when rewatching the piano teacher, I just said, "Oh wow, this totally reminds me of
Yeah.
Babygirl."
Yeah, it sounds like, well, it's again, it's playing with those dynamics, and the
Mhm.
outcomes are different. But I mean, they would be because every individual is going to have a different experience. And that one also sounds like it has a little bit more of the thriller in it with the uglier consequences too. Which I again is very, very typical for these types of stories, which is why I really enjoyed this one because it wasn't like that.
And
It
like you
was
said before
just
too,
like an observation. Yeah.
both characters in the piano teacher and Babygirl are morally gray, but Isabelle Hubert's character can almost be seen as villain-like, especially what she does to that other younger girl too, breaking the glass.
That's yeah. See, that's crossing the line of being vindictive to, starting to travel into the world of villain there.
But
For sure.
I would give a slight, spoiler alert for the ending. The very end of the movie, she takes a knife and stabs herself in the chest, and she leaves her piano recital, and it just ends right there. So you have no idea what goes on.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow.
it's uh I think she won Best Actress at the Cannes Film Festival that year. So it was, and yeah, now Nicole Kidman was nominated for, Golden Globe. I was sad that she did not get the nomination for Oscar this year because I thought Nicole Kidman did a really good job.
She was amazing.
Let herself out
She does
there.
her fun roles, and she does her fun roles too,
Yeah.
like everybody else. But man, I once again watching this, I don't know that anybody else could have played it. And whenever I say that, which is not very often, that is a testament to how incredible that particular actor was. Just she does a lot of stuff that I used to see with De Niro when he was younger. She's very subtle, but it's a lot. She acts a lot with subtle reactions in her face, a lot with her eyes, and it's just I just get floored by her. And she does this amazing thing where she appears to be powerful and yet vulnerable at the same time.
Heather, hold on 1 second here,
Sure.
because I don't know for sure because my thing messed up earlier here too. I'm hoping that I am still recording on my end. I'm gonna do
It
this.
says okay.
I don't know for sure. I know I'm on here, but I don't know for sure if it's like recording. So I'm gonna do this right now. It's okay. I'm gonna just I'm gonna just stop this really quickly here.
No
Okay,
problem.
and then we'll get right back because I should have just checked this before. But I'll
That's
be like
cool.
right back. All right. All right, for YouTube watchers, this is our part two of our Babygirl conversation. Welcome back. I was having little technical issues going on with the last recording because we're using the software and I wasn't quite sure if it was working or not. All right, but never mind. We're back here. Heather Basendale talked about Babygirl, and we talked about other fish movies. Talked about Nicole Kidman's performance in this. We mentioned that I like the fact that she's very vulnerable. In fact, she's let herself be totally naked, not just physically, but like emotionally as well.
Yeah.
And she is able to be comfortable in her skin to perform these very sexual situations with both Antonio Banderas and Harris Dickinson. And the fact that these actors allow themselves to do this for us to watch on the big screen is just absolutely like amazing. All right.
Yeah,
And
and also I would like to add to that too. Like a lot of people I think will look at a movie like this and think that there's just going to be gratuitous sex through the whole thing. That's not what happens here. There is sex in it. Also, there's not an explicit amount of nudity. There's a few scenes where we see like a breast or nipple. We don't have a ton of like real nudity between them. Most of it is sexy and implied because we don't have to. The scene I think you mentioned where she does just stand there nude, she covers herself mostly up. And also I think that was one of the best scenes in the whole movie. It was so real, like her crying because he said she was beautiful. That was amazing. But you don't. It's not because it's not again, it's about intimacy, it's about communication, it's about relationships. It's not about sex. The sex is just part of.
that's a good point. Now, I'll ask you this, Heather. Do you think this movie is almost like the female companion to Eyes Wide Shut? Like,
There's a
take
lot of parallels, yeah.
take the characters of Alice and Bill from Eyes Wide Shut. Now, in Eyes Wide Shut, we are seeing Tom Cruise Bill's night after his wife admitted to a sexual fantasy that she's had. And he's trying to fulfill that because he's probably never had that before. He's probably never dated as much women and has been married to Alice Nicole Kidman's character for a while. And he wants to try to achieve and feel the same things that she's felt because he's probably never felt that way about other women. And when she's feeling that way about other men, it puts him into whirlspin, and he's trying to achieve that fantasy. The same thing too could be said for Romy in Babygirl, a woman that's been married to the same guy for many years, and loves him, but wants to probably like feel things for another person that she's never felt before. So I kind of feel into when watching this movie is that Babygirl could have been like Alice's like fantasy instead of it being like that naval officer. It could be like a younger student of hers or something like that. I don't know what Alice does.
Well, yeah,
Alice is
they're just
and that's why
yeah, they're just different kinks. That's all. It doesn't.
Yeah,
there doesn't always have to be something that makes you have a kink. I mean, there often are reasons, but there doesn't have to be anything specific. But yeah, and she too, and that's another thing I liked about Eyes Wide Shut was they weren't like an unhappy couple either. They didn't have a bad sex life, just like Romy and Jacob don't have a bad sex life. She has one where it's not open enough for her to be able to explore the things that she wants or needs. And I think I think that's a big reason. And in general, if you want to talk about infidelity, which I mean, is kind of important in both of those storylines too, how someone who loves someone else could, step out on them. Listen, my ex-husband cheated on me all the time. All the time. So I know what it's like to be cheated on when you're married, and it's not fun. But it wasn't because of sex. He was just an asshole. And that's sometimes the case. But I think in a lot of situations, it has to do with things like this. Like one person or both people are not completely satisfied. It's fine. It's good. But I mean, you have to work at it too to make sure that you're both happy with where you're at. And people don't talk about that stuff. They just really don't. Not as a whole. They don't. And again, too, we saw it in the beginning where she tried to show Jacob that, let's try something a little different. And like, maybe you should put this pillow over my face. And,
yes.
and he's like, I don't want to do this. And she's a little awkward and sweet and cute about it. And I'm like, oh, I would so choke you out, my sweetheart. I would do whatever you need.
Yes. Oh.
I'm down for that. And I'm open.
All right.
I'm open with that kind of stuff. Yeah, she would have had a lot of fun. If she was married to me and not Jacob, there would have been no problems. But that's because of the communication. And
sure,
what we see later on in the story too is there's more communication. But I think a lot of times with infidelity, it isn't always just one person is the villain and the bad guy. I think most of the time it breaks down to, especially if you've been married a long time or in a relationship a long time, it doesn't matter, male, female, gay, straight, it doesn't fucking matter. If you don't communicate your needs and your wants and you aren't comfortable and open enough to discuss them, then things are going to start lacking. Or it's going to get fucking boring. Even if you had good sex, if you do it the same way every time, it's going to be boring.
Exactly.
At least if you're having orgasms and it's boring, you're still having orgasms. But this poor woman was not even having orgasms. And I just want to hug all the women that aren't having orgasms and sex and don't talk.
I do too. I want to hug them as well and help them out as best I can to help them.
I was gonna say, and I'm a friendly helper. Right? I'm pretty good at that. I have some talents in that capacity.
And I will keep trying.
Vern and I are here to help you, ladies. Give us a call.
That's right. We'll do that. That's our newest service right there, right? We'll keep trying, damn it. All right. We will not give up until you are satisfied. All right.
See, but that's also the right attitude, right? If you're with somebody, don't you want to make them happy? And again, 100%. This is not saying that Jacob is a bad guy in the movie. No. He's pretty normal. He also doesn't know that he's not doing a good job. So this is also not his fault. He has no idea that he's 100%. Not satisfying her. Yeah. So that's not his fucking fault.
She's afraid to tell him everything.
Exactly.
She gives little hints, but girls, don't just give us hints right there.
No,
sometimes
no, men.
We just need direct messages. All right. We
This
need to
is
be just
what I tell
told
my friends.
to the point right there. What do you want us to do? All right. And don't be afraid or ashamed about it.
Yes. And if a man or woman shames you, then fuck them anyway, because that's bullshit. You don't need to be judged. You don't want to fuck somebody that's going to judge you for the things you want to do, unless it's like murder, which,
Exactly.
I mean, that's
All right.
also negotiable.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm kidding. But yeah, my experience too has been exactly that, Vern. I love guys. Most of my life I grew up in a circle of men who were more accepting of me than women. And now I have a bunch of really, really wonderful women friends too. But most of my life I didn't. So I was surrounded by guys and I got to listen to them talk all the time because they treated me like I was their little dude friend. And that is really the truth. And my experience in relationships and sexual relationships wise, they want to do good. Most guys do want to do good. They do want to make you happy, but you can't dance around shit. You can't just leave freaking breadcrumbs and hope they do. Say, I would like to have this happen this way, like the piano teacher who shouldn't have been doing it with her student. That was bad.
No.
But if she was in a relationship and she said, hey, I would like A, B, C, and D. If those are not comfortable from you, where can we meet in the middle here? You have to be direct. Be direct. If you want something, fucking ask for it.
That's right. Right.
Sometimes that's my PSA for the day.
Sometimes girls, I want your ass. All right. So just accept that. All right. I want to do that. All right. I want to lick your toes. Just enjoy that. All right. If you like that,
see, you got guys like Vern here who are willing to step up and do the work. And again, if you're with somebody who's not willing to at least meet you in the middle or at least try something, you're not in a healthy relationship anyway, and you deserve better. So leave.
And I do like the fact that's what Antonio Banderas does near the end of this movie. Now, there's a great sequence in this where he confronts Romy and Harris Dickinson's actor on Google, but his name is Samuel or whatever.
We'll just call him actor from now on. Actor and Romy.
I like the fight that they get into, both those characters, because it felt like a very real, honest fight. It was not staged like an action sequence. They were just like fumbling around and I don't think either one of them really wanted to like hurt each other. They're just really angry, especially Antonio Banderas. He's just more angry and frustrated that his wife is with this other man. And then after he gets hurt, Samuel comes to him and helps him out and comforts him in a way too. And it just seems that he doesn't want to, I guess, infringe so much on the situation. And I know some people can take that moment to be like, well, that's his wife, right? That's his. He should have just knocked him out or he's going to kill him. And that's why I kind of thought, too, that he was going to kill the guy.
Well, yeah, I think that's what we were all expecting. I was relieved when it didn't. I was glad.
And it just kind of seemed at the point there, Heather, that after the whole situation ended, that is probably the big breakthrough moment that Romy and I forgot that Antonio Banderas' character's name. Jacob. That was probably their first the glass ceiling break-in there. And I think at that moment, Jacob realizes that, well, shoot, I have not been stepping my game up here. All right. And I almost thought that the three of them were going to go to bed together. Did you think
that inkling too? I did. I'm glad that they didn't. Because I think it made more sense to happen the way that it did. But I had that, I expected all these things because we've seen so many of these movies that these are the beats that they typically have. Well, and it was a relief for them not to.
There's a kink called hot wifing, where men want to see their girls be with other men.
Yeah.
And then later, I guess the thrill and excitement for hot wifing is to claim their girl back. So they'll watch these girls have sex with other men, and then the fantasy is that the whole claiming them back, you're my girl, all right, and that's their kink.
Yes.
Joy. And that's
exactly and that's exactly why I'm glad that they didn't do it. Not because of the kink. If that works for you, by all means, enjoy yourselves, my friends. As long as it's consensual and everybody's down for it, enjoy yourselves. The reason that I was glad that they have a good time, but the reason that I'm glad that they didn't do it is because that's not her kink. She's not with actor because she wants to have perform in front of her husband. She
fair.
wants this particular form of BDSM, which we don't really see what it exactly is. There's just elements of it because they're experimenting, but there's the BDSM at its core relationship that she's developing with actor. I'm just going to keep calling him actor now.
Actor, yes.
And that's what she's there for. She's not there because she wants somebody other than her husband. She's not there because she's looking for all these other sexual outlets. She knows ish what she wants and needs. And that's why she's there. She needs that, and she needs to explore it, and she needs to discover it. So if they would have done this whole thing, I feel like it would have completely diminished the entire point of the movie. I feel like it would have diminished the entire thing that we've learned. And it also would have diminished, I think, the ending, which was so fucking great. So I really, really liked that they didn't do that. Just like the two of them the two men didn't actually like hurt or kill each other or
Exactly.
hurt
That would
her.
have been a wholly different movie there.
Yeah, but that's not what it was about. And what it really did was normalize this kind of stuff, and it made it human so people could understand a little bit better. And I hope that's what people got from this, instead of looking at it as just some exploitation film, because it's not that.
It's very, what I said before when I wrote my review on Letterboxd, I said it's a very heartwarming movie because essentially this is about a married couple who have sort of like been drifting apart. They've been married for a while, and through her actions with this other person, they were able to like come together and learn to communicate, because her communicating or learning how to communicate with the Harris Dickinson character goes to her marriage and her husband, and them be able to communicate.
Because that's what she wanted in the first place. She wanted it from her husband. She wanted to have that with him. She wanted to have that intimacy and trust with him.
But she didn't really know quite the way how to communicate that with her.
Yeah.
And I think the Harris Dickinson character, actor, teaches her to do. She teaches him, or she teaches her how to be able to communicate better with what the desires that she wants. Because she was not able to do that. She felt very isolated. She felt kind of ashamed about her sexuality. And I feel like a lot of women, like you're saying that before, Heather, a lot of women are ashamed and scared to express their feelings of what they want.
We're told it's such a confusing thing to be a woman. Okay. You were told from the time you were younger that men are only interested in fucking you. But then you're also told that you need to be a virgin. Well, okay. So wait a minute. So the guys are only going to be interested in me if I fuck them, but they're not going to be interested in me unless I'm a virgin. How the fuck are we supposed to like walk through that in life? Now, me, I've always rebelled against it, but that is being a woman. That is the conflict of, oh, okay. And also, in fairness too, men and other women will also judge you for being a sexual person or attractive or open or any of those things, even if those people do the same thing or feel the same way. In fact, I think it happens more than because people project behind closed doors. I think it's mostly that people really do all share these feelings, but we aren't open to be able to talk about them without judgment.
That's fair. That's true. That's a good point.
So it's super confusing being a woman. It's like crazy.
I'm not a woman right there, so but I can't, I hear you, but yeah, that's all I can say, Heather. I'm sorry. I understand how things could be like frustrated about having to be seen as like somebody had to be like sexually desirable, but not want sex when you're with the guy, but you can't have sex with them, but you can't be as attractive to other people. I've gone out to places with other people, and I hate the fact too that I'm at a bar and I was talking to this one girl, and the guy automatically just puts his arm around her like it's hers, and I'm praising her beautifulness and everything there too, and he's just like, "Hey, you shouldn't be talking to her because people might get the wrong ideas." I'm like, "We're just talking, all right? If she has any sort of like feelings towards me sexually, that's fine. We don't have to act on it." I can call other people being attractive and everything. Doesn't mean it's gonna happen or add to anything more. And I think for like men too, like when we go talk to ladies, All right. Am I thinking about sex a lot? Yes, I am. But when I talk to someone, that doesn't necessarily mean that I am pursuing them in that way. If it
Yeah.
comes to that way, great. But if not, that's okay too. You know? So
Hey,
yeah,
do you
go
want me to
ahead.
tell you a secret? Us women,
Sure.
we think about sex just as much as you guys do. We
I
do.
do. Oh yeah.
We
I do.
do.
Oh, yeah.
We just absorb it differently. I mean, and I'm not even saying myself because I act typically more like a man,
Well,
stereotypically like a man as far as stuff goes. But most women, I think, again, I think it's just all internalized is all. And it comes out in different ways. And in a lot of ways too, that ends up, you see it manifest differently where it can
mhm.
repress sexual urges, or it can exploit them in ways that also aren't healthy if you don't open yourself to what you feel or need. That's why communication is so important. And flirting is fine too. Flirting is absolutely fine. If women weren't also afraid of being sexually assaulted for just flirting and then going, well, I was just, having fun with you. I didn't know that I had to have sex with you because we were just having a silly moment here. I think that they would probably feel a little bit different about that too.
And that's where the kind of fear comes in too, because a
Yeah.
lot of times, when I'm flirting with someone, I get into my head that they think I'm being aggressive, but maybe they want me to be more aggressive because for me, I'm always felt like more like kind of like feminine in my persona and have masculine traits, but I'm more, feminine side to me, and that's who I am and whatnot. But I always have like masculine traits. So when I pursue someone, I always have that feeling of like, am I overstepping boundaries right now? And I kind of feel like that's the characters in this movie are sort of like
Exactly. They
establishing,
don't really
or
know what they're doing, and it's like this whole awkward thing. That's one of the reasons why I really loved it because it was very realistic in that way. She doesn't know what he's doing, he doesn't know what they're doing. They're not trying to be bad people.
no,
They're trying to respect each other. Communication is really hard anyway, but when you bring in sex into it, it levels it up more because there's
sure,
so much shame attached to it. And I think men, I feel like, and you can correct me if you'd like, I feel like men probably feel pressure to be the aggressor and feel the pressure to be the one who does make all the moves.
sort of.
And all men aren't like that either. Like for me, I'm always been aggressive and I have never had any problem going and telling a man or a woman that I'm interested in them in a sexual way, in another way, or whatever. I've always just done it. That makes so many people really, really uncomfortable. But the people that like it, then I'm like, oh, okay, well now I know you're my people. So I understand that side of it too. And I think a lot of guys get turned off because they're not used to women being aggressive either, particularly sexually. I think it's intimidating.
I know
But
that's
I think men feel like I feel like a lot of men feel like that they're supposed to be like that with women. And that's not the case either. It's literally fumbling around and figuring it out.
I really wish that my co-host Ashley could have been on the show. She has not been able
Love
to see the movie
Ashley.
yet. We gotta come out there and visit you again sometime, and
Yeah,
just
that
like
would be great.
hang out just like for like a weekend or so. Would just be great. Or you should come up here for conversions or for Crypticon and whatnot. We can like get you a ticket up
Love to
here.
come out there too. I need a vacation so bad.
But yeah,
I
so
need one so bad. Yeah,
I think
I know. It's been like since pre-COVID, I think, or right after COVID since I saw you guys.
well, I know that conversions happens around July, like the 4th of July weekend is usually when that comes on, and I think Crypticon happens in like the last week of September or so. So I give you dates right there. If you know of any events coming up in your area that we can come and visit, that would be great too. But I know with her, she's been having issues, dating as well because she's also like you, very aggressive about
Yeah.
what she was as well. And it's so great having a friend like that too, because we can get like she can give me tips on dating and everything, and so
Yeah.
it's yeah, so
That's what we should do, right? We're friends
yeah,
and we should all be able to talk about this stuff with each other. Again, there would be so much less problems in communication if we could all be more open to talking about sex and the nature of sex with each other and making it not a weird thing. That's why,
no,
again, that's why I love this movie so much because it really really showed honesty in a situation like this, which I feel like all of us in some way shape or form can relate to.
and also this movie does inject a lot of humor into it as
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
really really like about it. And I'm hoping that not just couples, but single people as well can like watch this and learn things from it and learn that it's
100%.
about communication and it's okay to have sexual feelings and just be upfront and honest with them and just know who you're talking to and just be with it. My head seems out of things right now because I've been out with my meds for a little bit right now, so that's why a lot of my words don't seem concise.
You are doing just fine, sir. I gotcha.
Okay. Oh, thank you,
You're
thank you.
great.
All right. But yeah, so I learned a lot from this movie. I have watched Halina Reijn's previous movie, Bodies, 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 and I do
Oh,
recommend.
yeah. Yeah. She's great. She is so
She's good.
great. I love her. And listening to her talk out, like I said, what actually made me go to the theater to see it was listening to an interview with her and listening to her mindset. She is so great. I would love to see more movies written and directed by her or women like her.
Sure.
We could definitely use a lot of them out there. Men and women, all of us, we could use a lot more movies like this out here. And men and women, if stuff like this makes you uncomfortable, then that's probably a bigger indicator that you need to watch it.
Exactly. Got your comfort zones, all right? So yeah, well, who knows? Maybe I'll bring you to those Finnish conventions with me.
Yeah, yeah. And I'll let you know when some of the stuff around. I'm not going to swinger convention.
Yeah, bring your husband
I'm
along
married.
too.
I'm married again, and my husband and I don't do that. But
Okay,
yeah,
fair enough.
I support it. I support it entirely. I support it
I,
entirely.
I
That's
want
not
you to
for
go
us.
there for me.
I'm not saying I have
I
never, but I won't now
I joked
because
with the Ash.
boundaries and compromise.
That's fair. I joked with Ashley about that, like, because I know we had just done it before. And we're part of um, the ASN network. No, we're part of this network called Full Swap Radio, which has a bunch of kink and fetish podcasts, and we are featured on their Vanilla Sunday programming with other
Really? That's
podcasts that
awesome.
have nothing to do with sex. So my friend Nikki, she got me, kind of involved with being on that network, and I've interviewed guests from Hustlers to Housewives
Oh
and
yeah, I
interviewed a
think I saw
dominatrix at one
that.
point. So there is like this convention that goes on every year with them. They have like this winter bass carnival where they have like a whole floor dungeon of BDSM activities that I could
Oh,
go
I
to.
love it.
And I'm like, I thought about bringing like Ashley along with me. I'm like, I'm pretty sure 100% more people are going to be involved with you, and that'll be just fine because I want you to get your freak on, girl. I think it'd be
Also,
fun.
I mean, let's be fair. Ashley is a really, really beautiful woman, and she knows what she's about.
Sure.
So I can tell you right now, I would flock right to her too.
Oh, of course, yes.
So kisses to you, Ashley. You know I love you.
Yeah. I think that it would just be so much fun to have like a podcast that's outside that industry looking in on it. And I would be tempted to go and record episodes. And Nikki's a dear, sweet woman. She always dear Nikki. And it would be fun to hang out with her and just be, we call it here, waving in the pool, like getting your feet wet in the
Waiting.
pool. Like
Getting your feet
waiting.
wet. Get
Yeah,
your
I want
feet
to be
wet.
like
Yeah,
in
see what
the,
it's about. See what it's
I want to like
about.
wave my
Again, that's
feet
it. Be
in that
curious.
pool.
If you're curious about something, why wait? You never know what tomorrow's going to bring. Do it fucking
Yeah,
now. Go see.
that's
What's
true.
the worst that can happen? You can be like, this is not for me.
Yeah,
And what happens then? You don't do it again. It's really, really
exactly.
simple. And
I
we're
love that.
so scared to do things or try things, especially I think as we get older. I'm doing the opposite. The older I get, the more things I'm willing to try and do. But I think in
Yes.
general, as a people, we tend to want to do less and we get in our little comfort bubbles. No, stop it, stop it. That's not living. You need to play. You need to keep having fun. You need to keep being curious. Go out there and try things. As long as it's not hurting anyone else and you're not hurting yourself, then fucking do it.
100%. Well, thank you again, Heather, for doing this. This is our Valentine's Day episode. You're hearing this on Valentine's Day, and it seems perfect for Valentine's Day because love is about communication and openness, and the fact that we can be open, with each other about, what we like and dislike, and friends can talk to each other. This is great. You're one of my dearest friends. You're not just friends, you're family.
Yeah, forever,
I
Vern.
feel like, I can just come and just talk to you about anything that's going on in my life right there and any sort of problems and whatnot. So I love you so much for that. All right. I give big
I
hugs
love
to
you.
you and your Dragons and Mike and everyone in your family there too, and just big old hugs. And Mike, come back to this lady here because she's wonderful. I'm sure she misses you, buddy. All right, all right. Do all the wonderful things to her that she wants. All right, just love her completely.
Gosh, yes. Every time he comes back home, it's like I've been a monster.
Yes,
I have been a monster. You need to fix me
yes,
now, please,
yes.
before I start growing an extra head. Yeah,
And
I
she
missed
does
him.
grow an extra head. Kiss that head too, Mike. Okay, all
Yes,
right.
yes, I can do more. I can do more activities with two heads. Actually, give them to me. Maybe we should just let it happen and see how it goes.
That's right. Brilliant. Well, this is a blast. Please check out her podcast, Word of Hellmouth, over on Rabbit Hole Podcast. She hosts a fun Buffy the Vampire Slayer podcast with Mark Juice Armstrong. Very cool stuff. I'll post links in that show notes as well. Even if you don't know anything about Buffy the Vampire Slayer, because they do a really great detailed analysis of each episode, it's really cool. And they're just two good friends talking to each other, and I love it dearly. But yeah, this is going to be it for Cinema Recall this month. Hoping to be back on again. We're kind of doing episodes like each month, but I'll sprinkle in little bonus episodes here and there. I'm actually been. Oh, should also let you know too that I. So there was another podcast I was going to be hosting with Blake Turek about erotic thrillers of the 90s. But I have not been able to get a hold of her, so I don't know what's going on with that. Hopefully that will happen soon. I'm also working on another possible podcast, but instead of reviewing movies that are out now, I want to review movies that have not been released yet. I'm gonna go
I love this.
I'm gonna go into a time machine and we are going to review movies that are out in the future. All right. So we're gonna look at the reboot of Clerks. We are going to be looking at the sequels to Lost Highway. We're gonna be looking at movies that are not out yet. The new reboot of Iron Man. We're gonna be doing like reboots of just a whole bunch of other titles right now that I just can't think of. But yeah, adaptations of books and they've been made into movies. So look something like that. Something I'm kind of like brainstorming, and the idea is that I want this evil person to kidnap people and put them into like dungeons in different places and have them watch movies that are not there. But like I said, I don't know for sure this happened or not. But as always, thank you for watching, for listening, subscribing. We actually went on longer than I thought we were going to do, and I apologize about that. But it was so much fun talking with Heather about other things and not just the movie. I love that very much about doing shows like this because I don't want to seem boring and stale by going, I like this part. I like that part too. And we can actually get into the meat and nitty gritty of this movie. And I love that very much. And Heather, thank you again so much. Any
Thank you for
last
having
words?
me on. I missed you.
I
It was a
missed
good
you, Vern.
time.
All right. Heather will for sure be back on the show again. All right. Check her out on her Reservoir Dogs audio drama program, her little cameo. That was a lot of fun. That's it for and I will see you soon. Oh, don't forget, yeah, go to cinemarecall.net, patreon.com/cinemarecallpod. We will all see you soon. There's everybody.